right, so Michelle, you give us your consent to post this on our social media and on our website.
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Hey, Kiona.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. This is Kiona Michelle Dawkins,
Hey.
who is taking place of Dr. Allison.
Hey, Michelle.
Hi, how are you?
Doing great.
Good.
So how's everybody doing?
Good.
Doing pretty good.
Good. Family, friends, everybody good? Everybody intact?
Yeah.
Yep.
For the most part.
Uzma, you know, I posted it twice. I listed on our calling post. I did one Monday and then I turned around and did a follow-up. So
Nice.
I was thinking that, you know, we would get more participation, but hey, I don't know.
Well, as long as, again, you know, the whole purpose is for the word to go out to the community, and we're going to post it on our social media. So a lot of people will take advantage of it at their timings.
Okay.
Which is still good, you know. I mean, what we're doing is a public service, and in one way or the other, people will take advantage of all this discussion.
Okay.
Hey, Dr. Alvarado, you have to unmute. You're still muted.
Thank you.
Hey, hello, Dr. Alvarado. How are you?
Oh, I'm well. I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Well, there's Miss Dawkins, Ben, Norman, and Kiona that are already online. You know, just a few minutes ago, we just tapped into this. So
Okay.
Here's Dr. Alvarado, who is one of our speaker guys. I've heard a
Hello.
lot about you from Dr. Ellison, and I
Yeah.
look forward to this.
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you are welcome. So everybody's Zooming, huh? Everybody's Zooming left and right.
Yes, from one Zoom to another.
I'm too much.
Too much Zooming, that's true. I mean, I've Zoomed today was too much for me too. Since this morning, I've been on Zoom. So then I had to go and take a little walk in the park, which is called Walmart, and come right back. It was important to take a little breather, but here we are. So it is 6 o'clock, and I know we might have people join slowly. So would you guys, what do you guys suggest? Would you guys want to give it a couple of minutes or just get started?
It's up to you. It's up to you all.
It's up to you. What Zoom, I'm trying to put it on my page. How do I share it?
Ben is the right person to ask this question. So Ben, would you please help us?
So you're just trying to post the connection information? Is that what
Yeah,
you're
how
trying
do
to
you share it? Do you want other people to see it?
All right, hang on, let me tell you.
We're not doing Facebook Live, are we?
I can turn that on if we want to do that.
No, I'm just asking.
Yeah, no, I mean, I didn't have it set up to do that, but I can
Okay, no
actually
problem.
start that with a click with a button.
So how do they, it's called the neighborhood?
NPU.
Neighborhood Planning Unit.
Yeah, spelled out, Neighborhood Planning Unit J.
Okay.
And I think I sent you I sent you, for me, Ben Norman, you should see where, I think I sent you the link in Messenger too.
You sent it in Messenger? Let me look.
I sent you a message. Let me see. Yeah, it's in Messenger.
Okay. Let me go there.
Okay.
And you know, Ben, it's a good idea for us moving forward to put these kind of sessions on Facebook Live as well, so everybody can take advantage of it. I mean, all my circle of friends that are attached, and the speakers, and all the others that are with us, I don't think it's a bad idea at all.
Okay,
Yeah.
I see it now.
You see it now? Okay. Well, if it's okay with you, I'm going to go ahead as a test. Let's go ahead and turn this on. And it'll be a Facebook live stream going to the NPU website or the
Okay.
NPU group page.
Let's do it.
All right.
Yuna, you okay with that?
Oh yes, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. Let's do it, Ben.
All right, I'm going to do it right now. But we're also recording, so we can
Later on post.
begin when you guys are ready.
So, Dr. Alvarado, are you ready?
Am I starting? Am I the first up?
Are you ready? Because I'm going to start it.
Am I first up?
No, Ms. Dawkins will be the first one.
Okay, okay. I'm ready.
All right, guys. Shauna is here too. I see Shauna. Hello, Shauna. How are you? All right,
I
guys.
think Shauna's muted.
Oh, yeah, I see. All right, so 6:04, and officially we start our Wellness Wednesday today on June the 17th. I'm thankful to both of our speakers that are here right now, Ms. Michelle Dawkins and Dr. Tony Alvarado. We had Dr. Ellison to join us today, and unfortunately, there's been an emergency in his family, and he's attending a funeral today, so he is unable to join. But today's topics are very interesting. Each of the speakers is going to give their formal background and their experiences in a minute. But however, the topics are for Ms. Michelle Dawkins to cover today is COVID, its pressures, and the challenges that come with it for our relationships, any and every relationship. That's we all are going through it, and we all know it. Many of us don't want to talk about it, but we've been quarantined and a lot of things are suffering. And of course, relationships as well. So Ms. Dawkins is going to go ahead and give us a good insight on that and resources, hopefully. And Dr. Tony Alvarado is going to talk about in general health and the challenges that come with it. And of course, in this quarantine time, in this challenging time. So I'll let Ms. Dawkins go first, introduce herself, give her formal introduction. And I know that you have a one slide or one to share with us or screen to share with us. And from there on, you can dive into the topic, which is fine. And in between, if the speakers are okay, we can ask questions. If not, then later on, let's open the floor for questions, and anyone that has any questions, so we can go on. Let's keep this very interactive, very homey, very easy, rather than being it very formal. And Dr. Alvarado will go after Ms. Dawkins is done and discuss about in general health and its challenges during COVID time. So Ms. Dawkins, I give you the stage. Go ahead and get started with your introduction and more.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to share my screen right quick. 1 second. Are you all able to see this?
Yes.
Yeah.
I just have one slide. Okay. So this is a little bit about me. I'm an environmental safety and health trainer and consultant. I do, well, just recently in March, got certified in COVID-19 awareness. So what I do is I go around, not go around, virtually go around. I'm so used to, going around, but virtually providing COVID-19 awareness classes for some of our consortium members and some of communities in the Atlanta, in the Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana, and Florida areas. My background is I have served as and continue to serve as a HAZWOPER, which is Hazardous Waste Operations and Emergency Response. I do disaster preparedness training. My focus is always workplace healthy and safety. Also risk management consulting. And my background actually is as a microbiologist. I started fresh out of school as a microbiologist testing food in our small city in Massachusetts. I'm also a volunteer emergency responder with the CERT team, Community Emergency Response, a member of the Atlanta Black Chambers. I'm chairperson of the Workforce Development Committee and a member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority. So I'm glad to be here. This was a last minute thing that Dr. Ellison asked me to cover when he had that emergency. And tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about relationships. And we all know that COVID-19 has really, really changed a lot, especially the face of relationships. So it kind of reminds me of Charles Dickens. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times, because for some people, this has actually drawn relationships closer together. And for others, it has done just the opposite. And so there's going to be a lot of studies. They're looking at, just like we're looking at the physical aspects, we have to look at the mental health aspects as to what's going on with people as they're going through this particular pandemic. And, you know, human behavior is kind of unique in that, you know, people react differently at different times. And so with the spread of this particular disease, we're looking at some triggers such as anxiety and depression. You know, what does that look like? There's been so many changes right now, and there's actually no playbook. So what does that look like when you're being forced to stay at home? Some states were stricter than others. You know, some states had mandated you had to stay in. In Georgia here, we were a little more lax. So COVID has changed, like I said, the way that we're doing things with the closing of schools. That was, you know, a lot of challenging changes for the children, but also for the parents, because in addition to now having to take care of their children, they were trying to manage full-time work schedules. So what did that end up looking like? Some people were feeling more or less connected to others. What were some of the effects of just simply having to work at home? You know, what was that like, having to start working at home when you're accustomed to going and being around your coworkers? You know, so all of these are some of the things that we have to take a look at in terms of relationships. Humans, we're very relational people. So for different generations, it took on different aspects. Think about our elderly population, many of whom are already isolated. And then now they were told that, you know, they were one of the most vulnerable populations. And so their visitations even decreased even more than they had in the past. And for many of us, we were able to digitally connect very easily, but for that population, that wasn't an option for many of them. So we have to take into consideration what types of events occurred and still are occurring for many of the relational things that we were very, very accustomed to, and what are some of the long-term effects going to look like? For those who live alone, what did that translate into? You know, did that cause individuals to feel more isolated, you know, and having to stay in and not be able to go and access just basic things, some of your basic needs? Because in the beginning, remember, that's what we were dealing with. And so there were so many confusing options that were being given to us, and it only rendered more anxiety, more fear, a lot of questions as to what should I do and what shouldn't I do. And I think that was the consensus when I looked at many of the different reports that were out, when we talked about, as they talked about relationships and what that has translated into as far as COVID is concerned. For our younger population, who already rely on digital technologies heavily, research is showing that many of them have increased their use of social media. However, what that is translated into for them is a feeling of more isolation and loneliness. And because oftentimes that population, our teen population, they don't feel like they can connect with the older population, maybe their parents or anyone. Are they harboring those things inside? You know, what are we doing to connect and communicate with that particular population? So these are all questions that we have to look at first and foremost and ask ourselves the question, how did we, or how are we coping? And then how do we communicate whatever those feelings are, whatever those emotional, those anxious, those stressful feelings, what is our outlet? Uzma, you mentioned being able to go and take a walk, just taking that breather today, but how many of us have that option? How many of us take that option? Are we getting outdoors and getting some fresh air? Are we allowing our, eating a good diet that allows us to also, enhance our immune system and things like that? all of that has a play when we talk about relationships. So, as we continue in this mode, because even though they're opening up everything, many people are still not going back to work just yet. So that isolation continues. The children, they're still up in the air as far as what the next school year is going to look like. So what does that mean for individuals who are still at home with their children, who are still having to work or not? What does that look like in terms of, that individual's relationship with other people? Because remember, with the social isolation, we may have had that closeness with our family, but we were lacking that connectivity with our friends, with our co-workers, with our church members. So this thing gets bigger and bigger. And what are we going to do as a community to assure that we come back on board and that we're not suffering from any of the psychological effects that normally occur when you talk about isolation? Or for individuals who may have had instances, issues such as substance abuse. According to many of the studies that I looked at, domestic violence is on such a surge, an increase. So what does that look like? And how are we assuring that people feel safe, in this isolated state? So relationships have played a major part in this pandemic, as it does with any and all of the major catastrophes, any kind of situations that we found ourselves in with, I do a lot when we talk about disasters, after different storms, they take a look to see what have been some of the relational changes, some of the psychological effects on the humans that had to endure that. And so a lot of times you talk about divorce rates increasing. And I looked at one study today that was very interesting because they compared what happened after the storm Hugo, where there were seemingly a lot of divorces, but also the situation after 9/11 where people came together more, where there were more relational connectivity than it was compared to something like a storm. So there's a lot of different things that occur. And so I want you all to kind of share some of the things that you may have experienced yourself or that you know of other people having experienced.
So I have a question.
Yes.
First and foremost, quite respectfully, Miss Dawkins, if you press the exit button so it can take us away from that slide.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem.
Oh, where'd it go? Stop share.
Yeah, they'll stop sharing.
There
Yes,
you go.
there you go.
Okay, I'm
So-
sorry.
No problem, no problem. So here we are. So you're talking about, there one side of this, the flip side, the bad side, or the negative, the dark side of it is isolation. So what would you suggest in order to break that ice? Because myself, I have teenagers. Well, my family, I'm blessed that in a way it's been that we talk a lot. And as you can tell, I talk. So I constantly keep them engaged, but not everybody's family structure is like that. Mom and dad working. By the end of the day, you meet, kids are tired, done from school. We maybe have dinner, maybe not together. And then everybody's in their little, corners. But now all day long spending at home in isolation in their own corners, what would you suggest in order to break that ice, in order for families to be cohesive and pull through this time together, and whatever challenges may be, as we were already, as this generation was already talking a lot about having the next generation being so high tech and so busy with social media and whatnot, and there were a lot of good, bad, and some not good outcomes of that. Now it gives them more and more time, more and more opportunity to be on it, and only God knows what they're doing. So what do you suggest in order for parents who are trying to work and yet being home, and kids being home as well, but still everybody's isolated?
I think the leadership actually comes from the parents. And I think the fact that many parents have been able to be real creative. A lot of jobs weren't demanding that people sit at a computer from 9 to 5. So that was a good thing. You had a little more you had a lackadaisical work schedule. So my thing was, you know, first of all, also not making that child sit there from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock. And I had that discussion with one of my family members. Every time I called, my nephew was studying. I'm like, oh my God, what is he, in Harvard? You know, come on. He has to have that, you know, he has to have that time as well, because this is just as challenging for him, if not more, than for you, because we know coping skills. He doesn't. So, you know, my thing was get him out, you know, have him ride his bike, and you walk with him or ride a bike with him. This was a time for people to become very, very creative and utilize the time that, you know how we sit at work and say, if I had more time, I would do A, B, and C with my family. Well, this was that time. And that's why I started off by saying, this has been the best of times and the worst of times, because for many people, it drew them together. You know, it gave them an opportunity to sit down and have dinner together. Wow, that's kind of, you know, a weird, you know, but those are the things that I think we grew up with. And as we become more technologically advanced, we've moved away. So I think if we were smart, not, you know, I don't want to discredit anybody for not, you know, saying that you're not smart, but if we were really thinking, we took well advantage of the opportunity and the time that we were given. Because like I said, I remember in the very beginning where we were really thinking we were going to be just in the house, and you just start thinking of, I don't have any small children. I have a small grandchild that's here, but I enjoyed that time. And then I started thinking, hey, this is a perfect time for me to create my garden. You know, I've been wanting a garden. I've been traveling so much. Now I can stay at home and start working on those little things that mean a lot now, because now I can go out in the backyard. I can cultivate my own nutritious food that's going to help, you know, just thinking through that process, help with build my immune system, and then, you know, be able to possibly share with others because I'll have fresh vegetation. So I think it's just a matter of not just seeing the bad side, the dark side, as you said, but also recognizing that there is another side to this, and how do we monopolize on that time?
I have also heard from many parents that in a sense that, oh, it's beautiful, the time is amazing, but you know what, kids stay up all night long because now they have all the time in the earth, and the schedule are upside down. That's very common across the board. I've heard that from many of my friends, many of the parents that are teenagers, parents, they stay up late at night, either watching Netflix or however, so playing video games, because now they have all the time. And that sort of throws everybody off, you know, and then the morning starts around like noon.
Right.
So any suggestions on that? And are you hearing that too, or?
I definitely am. And my thing is, once again, you have to set that pace. You set the pace. You know, you need to give them, I mean, we grew up with chores. You know, these are words that these kids don't even know. They're unfamiliar with that. But giving them, you know, light chores around the house, there's also an accountability and responsibility. So explaining the difference between the two, and then making sure that they understand this is not forever. We're going to have to get back on a schedule eventually. So, you know, why not start? You could be a little more lax. Maybe they stay up until 10 instead of 9 o'clock. So you expand that a little bit, but help them to understand that I still want you to be regimented to a certain extent. And I think that that's up to the parents once again.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I have a question. Miss Michelle
Dawkins.
We're having challenges. Well, I won't say challenges, but some individuals or neighbors that are apprehensive about us meeting, because you just said, well, at some point we'll have to come back to normal. Well, I mean, when do you think is a good time?
I think, well, you know, now I know that they're opening up the world and saying go back out. But one of the things that I am definitely an advocate of, and I've been teaching this and I'm going to continue teaching this, we still have to exercise the physical distancing. That is extremely important. It is evidence-based to show that the physical distancing does help to reduce the spread. So we want to make sure we're doing that. Also, you know, helping them to understand that you want to still get back to some sense of normalcy. So, you know, you're going to have your facility, hopefully, where people are physically distanced, but you're also going to have the sanitizer, and also enforcing the use of wearing the mask. That has to be something that you stand on, and not allow people to not, come in, because understanding the mask is protecting that other person when you have it on, but when that person wears one, it's protecting you. So educating people and helping them to understand that, you can come back together. You don't want large gatherings, but you do want it enough so that people feel comfortable. So once again, I think you have to set the tone and help them to understand we have to get back to business.
Right. I wish you were on a call we had yesterday.
Well, correct.
I will share some of the community trainings that I'm doing, because they are virtual. So I'll share that information at the, I'll make sure that Uzma has it.
Yes, please do, because we're going to post that and we might end up utilizing that as well. So Ms. Dawkins, stay right there with that thought while I introduce Dr. Alvarado to go ahead and join in and go through the introduction and go ahead and tell us about the importance and the challenges that we're dealing with overall health during COVID time. And once Dr. Alvarado is done, we will, open the floor for questions and answers. And then at the very end, before we exit, we would go ahead and, if anybody has any other questions for Ms. Dawkins, please feel free to ask. So we all can take advantage of the presence of these beautiful ladies here and their expertise. So Dr. Alvarado, stage is all yours.
Well, good evening. I'm Dr. Antoinette Alvarado. I principally serve as the co-pastor of Grace Church International in Atlanta, Georgia. And I am also a certified coach and coach trainer. I am a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, and one of the things that I teach on in my coaching practice is on health and wellness. It's one of the things that I am certified in, and one of the things that I actually teach clients and groups about. I am the author of Harmonize Your Life. Conversations on, I'm the author of Harmonize Your Life, A Journey to a Self-Care book, and I'm also the host of the Harmonize Your Life, Conversations on Self-Care for Women of Color podcast. And so I am excited to be here with you all tonight to be able to share just a little bit on self-care and health and wellness. So when we start talking about health and wellness, particularly in this COVID-19 environment, it's so important. I appreciate Ms. Dawkins and the work that she is doing. And really what I'm going to say really kind of builds on what she already shared in terms of just a holistic approach into way we live, into the way we live our lives. When we start talking about health and wellness, we need to think about wellness. There's two models or two ways that we can look at health and wellness. We have the medical model and we have the wellness model, if you will. So the medical model is going to always look at issues of death, disease, discomfort, disability, and disfaction. So whenever we start talking about the medical model, it's going to rely exclusively on biological explanations of disease and illness. And as Ms. Dawkins has already said, oftentimes it's based on research and things of that nature to kind of help us manage diseases, the spread of diseases, and the like. But one of the approaches that I am very interested in is the wellness model, because the wellness model emphasizes healing, self-healing, promotion of health. It's a more holistic way of looking at it. So where the medical model is going to mainly deal with the biological facts, the wellness model is going to look at the dimensions of health and wellness. How am I doing emotionally? So I'm looking at emotional wellness, which requires an understanding of my emotions and how I'm coping with everyday problems. So the medical model may look at the symptoms of disease and how we're being impacted by the COVID-19 virus, the coronavirus, and all of that. But then the wellness model is also going to consider how am I processing emotionally if I'm sick, or if a loved one is sick, or if someone has died, and how am I processing that? How am I feeling about being quarantined and not being and having to social distance? While we understand the social distancing is important and physical distancing is important, there's some real aspects of us coming together physically that help us emotionally. And so as we disconnect physically, how are we feeling about that, and how are we processing our feelings as it relates to that? A wellness model is going to also look at intellectual wellness. How am I open to new ideas and new concepts? What's been interesting about this COVID-19 environment is that it's caused many of us to have to go back and redo the way we've done life, the way we've done ministry, the way we've done education, and the like. And if we're not open to new ideas and new concepts, we won't be able to make it through this pandemic. Many of us are used to being in physical spaces, teaching and doing what we do even tonight. But we've had to move to virtual platforms such as Zoom and other platforms to be able to do what we do. And we've had to learn new technology and new ways of living and being in the world. So the wellness model looks at intellectually, how am I open to this new way of being and living in the world? And am I open to new ideas and new concepts? Then I'm going to also be concerned about my spiritual state. So how am I spiritually, no matter what my faith tradition is? Every major religion is concerned about how am I processing, how am I living according to my own spirituality, how am I connecting with others in a spiritual way, how am I interacting with the divine, whatever that is for us, okay? Then social wellness is how am I interacting with other people? Am I comfortable? How am I making other people feel? And we cannot have this conversation tonight without dealing with how are we dealing with one another racially? Because right now there's a lot of racial tension going on in our society, in our nation. And we can't have this real conversation about health and wellness if we're not willing to even talk about how we're feeling about the other and how we're interacting with the other person, racially and otherwise. So social dynamics of health and wellness. And then, of course, we want to deal with our physical aspects of health and wellness. How am I maintaining my body? Am I eating right? Am I exercising? Am I avoiding harmful habits? Am I being responsible in the way that I and making decisions about how I eat in this COVID-19 environment as we've been sheltering in? People are saying I have gained pandemic pounds, you know what I mean? Because I'm eating things that I shouldn't be eating, or I'm eating at times that I should not be eating. And so am I drinking enough water? Am I eating fruits and vegetables? Am I building up my immune system by what I eat and what I'm not eating? And so that I can't, even if I do contract the virus, am I building up my immune system or my body to the point where I can fight the virus and not succumb to the virus? And then there's occupational wellness. How am I dealing with, because sometimes in this environment, we've had people who've lost jobs, people who've been furloughed from jobs, or people are not making as much money because maybe extra jobs that they had. Like, for example, my husband and I, we're pastors principally, but I have a huge speaking platform that had really literally shut down. And so some of the income that I receive from traveling and speaking I've not been able to receive that income. And so how am I making it occupationally through this COVID-19 environment for day workers and people who make their money hourly? When you think about restaurant owners and restaurant workers and people who make their money by service industries, which many of are not able to do right now because of social distancing and physical distancing. So those kind of things we play a role in how am I holistically living my life. So when we talk about health and wellness, my whole message is we have to approach it from a holistic standpoint.
Dr. Alvarado, so question right here.
Mm-hmm.
So many questions that you had mention of. In each category, there are so many questions, so many worries, and all these thoughts are for real.
Yes.
living the way we're living right now. We're dealing with that. These thoughts are running through our minds. We're trying to get the life and holding on to it while we can pull through this phase, and yet don't know what's coming our way. We don't know. We say we're not going to be held like this forever. We know this is temporary bubble that we're in, but eventually how far this bubble will stretch, and then what is the outcome, because it's unknown. So the fear of that unknown and moving forward with occupationally, dealing with the emotional issues, physical health, and many categories within it that you had just mentioned, and then yet dealing with the racial issues that are in front of us. So when you look at each of this category, what do you suggest? If you can take one major category at a time and give us some kind of answers, some kind of resource, some kind of mindset that we must have in order to deal with that, because those are real questions. We are living with it every day.
We are living with it every day. So I will say, okay, so first of all, let me say this. In order for us to deal with it, we must create a plan for self-care. How am I going to manage my life in all of these areas? Now, let me also say that you may not be able to focus on all those areas at the same time. So sometimes you have to decide which area is most important right now. Where am I? First, you have to assess. And in my work, we give assessments. And so we ask people to assess where they are. How are you feeling? How are you physically? Where are you? Emotionally, where are you? Spiritually, where are you? And once you've assessed where you are, it can often determine what area you need to focus in on. So let me just say that, because when you think about it, if you try, what's the phrase? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? So we cannot oftentimes approach this thing like attack it all at one time. You may be fine physically, but you may find emotionally that you need some attention, or you may be fine emotionally, but find that socially you're lacking. And so those are things that you need to assess and see exactly where you are. Okay, so to give you some examples of things that you and I can do. Number one, we need to set a plan. All right, make a plan for self-care practices. Include things like physical wellness, emotional well-being, and spiritual well-being. Start small. Be flexible. And be intentional about making the necessary changes that you and I need to make in our self-care plans. Okay? So if you might say, I need to lose 5 pounds. Well, you say I need to lose 30 pounds. Well, you're not going to lose 30 pounds in 1 week. So you got to be realistic about what, set realistic goals, SMART goals, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and a time frame. Because if you do that, then you set yourself up if you don't, you set yourself up for failure, right? So be realistic, start small, be flexible. You might be able to do something right now that next week you find that you can't do. So you got to be flexible. And in this environment, we definitely have to be flexible because things are ever changing, right? So we got to be flexible. We got to be intentional. It's not going to happen unless you and I are intentional. Put it on your schedule. Mark it down. I'm on vacation this week, and I did something that I don't normally do. I agreed to come on this Zoom during my vacation time, which normally I would not have done that. But I did it for Dr. Ellison, and because I'm passionate about this particular subject, right? But immediately when I'm done, I've already told my husband, because of some other dialogues that I've been involved in, I need to clear my head. So as soon as we're done, I told my husband, let's go for a walk on the beach. Let's go for a walk outside, because I need time to just disconnect, right? And so we have to have times where in our day, like my sister said, Michelle said earlier about her nephew, just like her nephew, all of us, we cannot constantly be on our computers. We cannot constantly be in Zoom meetings. You got to learn, when this pandemic first started, everybody was scurrying and there was so many Zoom calls to be on. And I finally had to become selective about which ones I'm going to attend. and where I'm going to be. It's just, and many people are saying that they're finding that they're busier now that we're home than they were when we were leaving to go. And that's because our home has now become our workplace. So there are no boundaries. So now we have to be intentional about setting those boundaries. I'm working from this time to this time. I'm taking a break from this time to this time. I'm shutting down at this time. I'm gonna go to this meeting, but I'm not going to that meeting. So you have to be very intentional about those things. And it's different for every person, Uzma. It's very different for each person.
So, question that we asked from Ms. Dawkins earlier, and I think it's fair enough for us to ask you as well what Kiona asked. As a community together, as a community, as a big family, we all know that one way or the other, we have to step out of this bubble. Things are slowly opening and hoping to get back to the swing of whatever that new normal will be. So what do you suggest? Where do you see ourselves for us to be moving forward as a community and wanting to start the gatherings? What is your suggestion? How soon do you think it can happen based on everything that's around? After all, we all have to get back to normal swing of life, whatever that normal is. I don't know, but we're trying to form that normal. Ms. Dawkins gave us her 2 cents and her advice that, to be diligent about washing hands and keeping the distance mask and start with the small gatherings and move forward. So
I agree with Ms. Dawkins completely. 100%. We're pastors, so we have a congregation, and we are still not gathering on Sunday mornings. That's our gathering time, right? Our main gathering time is Sunday morning. So we're still doing live stream services, but we've also created opportunities like this past Saturday where we did a prayer walk in the community. That was the first time that we actually had a gathering since the pandemic started, where we actually invited congregants to come to the church and spend time on the church ground together. But we were outdoors, we required that they wear masks, and we dispersed out into the community. We practiced social distancing, physical distancing, and we stayed within the COVID-19, the CDC guidelines for gathering in terms of that. And so to start moving us back to a sense of normalcy, while we're still not doing the Sunday morning gathering that we've done traditionally, we still now are starting to create other opportunities for the congregation to come to the church ground and still feel that sense of community. You get what I mean?
I see.
And we had congregants that came on Saturday who one woman said she had not been out of the house since the pandemic started. And she just wept to be on the church grounds and to see her pastors and see other church members. And she was like, I've been so cloistered. I haven't seen anyone. And she just was so happy for an opportunity. We gave away food boxes. So what we did was we told the people, drive up to the church ground, and we had people there, pop your trunk, and we put stuff in the trunk. So they weren't able to come in the building, but we were able to still serve them. So we have to find creative ways to still gather people, but still be safe. And let me just say this, just like 9/11, remember when 9/11 took place? It changed forever the way we travel, right? So now that when we travel, before I'm old enough to remember when you were able to walk, family members were able to walk other family members to the gate of an airplane, correct? When I moved to Atlanta in 1989, my mother literally walked me to the gate, to the door of the airplane. You see what I'm saying? But you can't do that anymore. 9/11 changed the way we travel forever. And I suggest that this pandemic will probably change the way we do things forever. We may not get back to a pre-COVID existence, and that's okay. But we have to find a new normal, and we have to create a new normal and find ways to still be healthy, still be well, and still do what we're supposed to do. So I suggest that we stop mourning the old and start creating the new.
So when taking, beautiful, that's amazing. And a question from there arises for those who are initiating such initial gatherings. I mean, you already did it for your church, and you're explaining that with taking all the cautions or precautions that you could, you announced it, but you went ahead and you took that step. Now, for the fear factor that sustains here and in certain people's minds that, okay, yes, eventually it will open up. We're all fine. We understand. We see that vibe is coming. We don't know when. We don't understand the timeline yet. But why should we be the initial ones? Why should we take that lead into opening up to that level? God forbid, because of my bravery, because of my taking that step, what if someone ends up with that virus? And then how am I going to get that guilt out? Or now I'm smeared around the community saying, well, you took that step. Here, you made some
And
people.
that's why I say leaders have to be very discerning, and you have to be very, you need to take in counsel, like with us and my husband and I, but first of all, we're listening to CDC. We're not, we're listening to CDC. We're following the guidelines of medical professionals and scientists, okay? And then we're taking counsel. And so we're using wisdom in the way that we gather. I think that it would be a travesty for us to just to ignore the signs. Like now they're saying the numbers are going back up because people are moving and doing more. Okay, we get that. But so now with that, we have to take into account, you know, we had church members asking us, well, when are we going to get back to our regular service? And we're telling them, we don't know. We just don't know, because we don't want anyone to come in here and get sick on our watch. So I think that as a leader, that's a risk that you have to take, whether to do it or not. But I err on the side of I will wait.
Ms. Dawkins, what is your advice on this?
I totally agree. I err on the side of wisdom, because before I do anything I pray for wisdom, because wisdom takes me far, you know. And so there are certain parameters, you know, there's certain things that are coming out that are not validated. We're getting information from all over. And that's what I hear from people. They're totally confused. And so following the guidelines when you're opening up, you know, I've been encouraging churches, if you've not taken a look at that document, the guidance, the guidelines that have been set forth by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, those scientists who have years of experience, and you're getting information from social media or from, you know, the media, then you're missing out, because you will be held liable. And just like my sister just said, we don't want that. We want people, you know, they've already told us 80% of the people that will get this disease will not necessarily end up in the hospital. You know, my oldest brother called me 3 weeks ago, and he had tested he had gotten sick and then tested positive, you know, but he didn't end up in the hospital. And thank God he was able to go home and get himself back together. We talked about, you know, his diet and all of that stuff. He got himself back together, and then he was able to go back to work. And the majority of people will do that. So
the majority of people are not going to have symptoms. You're
exactly.
Right.
They're not going to have symptoms. They're going to be asymptomatic. So right now, you know, 80% of the people have no signs or symptoms. So that means that only 20% of the people out there do. So we're coming into contact with people all the time, and we don't know what they have. So it's up to us to make sure that we safeguard ourselves. And then, of course, if you're conscientious, you want to safeguard your brother or your sister as well, whoever that person is. You know, so when I see people entering into the post office or places like that and they don't have masks, I have stopped and talked to people. I've talked to, you know, I was at the track one morning and I saw an elderly woman pull up beside me, and she had her mask on in the car. It was extremely warm out. It was a very warm morning at 7 o'clock in the morning. So I asked her if she wouldn't mind me sharing some information with her. And I asked her why she had her mask on in her car. And she said, oh, I thought I was supposed to wear it. And I just started explaining, when you're in a vehicle by yourself, you don't have to wear that. My concern was she was now getting ready to walk the track. She had on something on her head. She had on a mask, and then she had on a jacket. Now, I had just taken my jacket off and tied it around me, but I wanted her to understand you're now increasing your risk for heat exhaustion.
Exactly.
So, you know, and so educating people, taking the time to say, look, you don't necessarily need that, but there's been no guidance there's been, we're not getting the leadership that we need from the top that's giving us adequate information. We're getting a lot of really diluted information. And then it seems like they're trying to stifle the ones that were really giving us information. So I always encourage people to go and look at the CDC's website, look at OSHA's website if you're an employer or an employee, because all of them have the mandates spelled out very, very good.
So what I'm gathering is, as long as we are wisely knowledgeable,
Yes,
we are cautious, we're following the very explained guidelines that are out
yes.
there, very, very major ones,
Right.
Initiating the steps and starting with the smaller gatherings for important reasons.
Right.
It's not a bad idea, because together as a community, we will be the ones who has to form that new norm.
Exactly.
We are the ones.
Right. And so the concern in the very beginning, when Georgia started opening up, we knew we had to open up, but it was the places that were opening up first. To me, that didn't make a lot of sense to me, because there were more essential businesses that needed to be open, not the tattoo parlors and the beauty salons and places like that. So I think it was just a matter of priority.
Yeah.
And then having a clear-cut, concise way, that, because they were still like, what do we do? And what do we use? Because I think Pastor explained it very good when she talked about, the fact that we have to know how to do what we do. And so we go through disinfecting and cleaning. We talk about the difference, because a lot of people are cleaning, they're not disinfecting, and that there's certain products that the EPA has outlined, they call it EPA's list N, like in Nancy, that outlines the products that you should be using in your business, in your home, in your church, that actually kills the COVID-19. But there's other things you need to know about that. So, just educating.
So a lot of educating has to happen.
It has to. And we're not seeing that. We're just hearing people say, well, we got to open up because of the economics. But what happens? I heard one of the newscasters today say, what happens if we have to shut down again if the numbers get really high? Well, what will that do? That's going to force a lot of businesses out of business forever. Because they've not taken the time to really come up with that plan that you talked about. And we do risk assessments as well. That's always the first thing you do. You want to have a risk assessment done so that you know exactly where your guidelines are and what you need to implement now to make sure that you maintain a safe and a productive environment. But if you've not done that, then chances are you are going to fall prey to whatever happens, because you're going to now have a reaction instead of being proactive.
I agree. I totally agree. Guys, any further questions before we start wrapping up?
So key things is protecting yourself, wearing your mask. When you're gathering with people, when you're going into public facilities, you do want to wear your mask. You want to make sure that, you're social distancing, following those guidelines when you go. My thing is, I try to go when I know stores are not, at their peak. I go first thing in the morning, right after, and I tried to see if what they designated as senior hours, but I didn't fit that category.
And now, Uzma, I want to just say this one last thing as we wrap up. One of the things I talk about in my book is creating a self-care board of directors. Mm-hmm. And so as you're going through this, as Ms. Dawkins is saying, we need to make sure that we have a team that we are consulting, not only individually, but also as a community. And so, the self-care board of directors, number one, you are at the top of that board. You are the CEO of that board individually. I always say to people, yes, get medical advice, seek wisdom, seek counsel, all of that. But at the end of the day, your health is your responsibility. It is your responsibility to make sure that you take care of yourself. You cannot just totally leave that up on laws and policies and people. You have to take that seriously, that your health is important. And so on your self-care board of directors, you should be at the top of that. You should be taking responsibility for your self-care, for your health and your wellness. your family and your friends. And what I mean by that is not toxic family, not toxic friends, but you ought to have your family, your friends. They ought to be able to, if they notice something about you or seeing something in you that needs to, that can kind of, what, I noticed this, your affect is low. I noticed that, because oftentimes when people are depressed, they don't realize that they're depressed, but it's their family and their friends oftentimes that will say, you might need to go see somebody about this, that, or the other, because we have blinders on, and sometimes we cannot see ourselves the way other people see us, right? So you need good family, a good network of family and friends in your life. You need to seek medical professionals, medical attention. You need to seek mental health counselors. And you're talking about mental health is a huge part of our health, because it's not just physical health that makes us healthy and well, but it's our mental health that makes us healthy and well. How am I doing mentally? So seeking mental health counselors, therapists, psychiatrists, seeking nutritionists, dietitians, learning how to eat healthy, having healthy eating coaches, having personal trainers and fitness coaches in your life, people that you can talk to, life coaches, as well as spiritual directors. And I talk about a lot of that in my book, because you need to have this board of people, so you're not living life in a vacuum or by yourself, but you have a community of people coming alongside you to help you with your health and wellness.
I so much agree with you on that. That is so true. So many things we ignore, and those are very important factors, for us to keep ourselves aligned and intact with moving forward in a healthy way. Before we adjourn, I would like to thank you both, of course, and all the attendees as well. I'd like to get some kind of reach you information. So if you guys don't mind, we would be posting that on our website and our social media, so people can reach you both directly, those who hear this on our social media, those who are right now here, to have the access to you ladies, so they can reach out, and if they have any further more questions. So please send me that information where I can go ahead and send it to Ben, and Ben is going to be the one who's going to.
You want us to put it in the chat?
Please.
Okay. You want us to put it in the chat?
You can do that. You can do that. That'd be wonderful.
If you don't mind.
Sona had her hand raised at one point. I don't know if we addressed her question.
I did have a question. Hello.
Please go ahead.
The question that I have is that during this pandemic, for me, there have actually been a lot of benefits, such as being able to work from home after requesting it and then telling me that it wasn't that possible. Also requesting that certain meeting, like community meetings that I attend, be done on a virtual platform, them saying that it's not possible, and then now it's happening. So how do you get people to understand the benefits of this new normal as we move forward, with a lot of people wanting to return to the things of old?
I think a lot of businesses have seen how cost effective it has been to have people be able to work at home. So I think we're going to see that transition for a lot of different companies, for those that can do that. So I think that this has been an eye opener on both levels, for both the employee and for the employer. So I think we can look forward to that. Also now you're being able to say, hey, I was more productive at home versus, in the office. How about, and they may be willing to negotiate. So I think now everything is negotiable.
Yeah, everything's on the table now.
Yes.
Everything is on the table. I don't think it's much that you will have to do in convincing people.
I don't think so.
Because I think people are seeing, but I think one of the things on a personal level with your friends and family that may be grieving the old way, just celebrating it yourself and showing the benefits of it, not speaking ill of it, and being very positive about it also helps.
Mm-hmm.
I have a comment or a question. How do you communicate that too? Because our NPU or our neighborhood, the population is, say, maybe 65 to 70 or above. It's a majority seniors.
how do you stand before them boldly and make, you know, those type comments when a lot of these people don't, some of them may not even have the internet service. So how do we still connect to those people if we just continue to move on to this quote unquote new way of doing things? How do we not disenfranchise the people that actually helped build this community?
I think we have to be creative, and I think even the churches had to go through that process.
Yeah.
Because here we were saying, yeah, we're gonna, you know, do our worship services on camera, you know. But I know for my mom, she was like, well, you know, she's very, you know, this is challenging for her, so she was getting frustrated. So we have to be, first of all, creative and inclusive. We don't want to leave any of them behind. So that's really up to that community to start coming up with ways of making sure that if that's your population, you may need to partner with a organization that digitalizes or has, you know, the ability to get some device into their hands, or, you know, smartphones or something that's easy to use, you know, so that they're not left behind and they feel included and not, you know, the opposite.
And you know, some people were doing not just the internet stuff, but they were also doing phone conferences. So that people, so maybe it should be a both and approach, not just the internet, but also if you can't get on the internet, you can call in and listen or be a part of the conversation.
So Dr. Alvarado, on that, as you were transforming this and bringing this on the table to your congregation, would you mind sharing any challenges? Did you deal with any challenges, any pushback? Or if you didn't and it went smooth in bringing them to that next level or next platform?
Well, actually, in my congregation, I didn't, but I know of others that did, because my congregation is not, our congregation, I would say the average age is somewhere between 28 to 45, 55, 60. And so most of our people were already on very tech savvy, you know what I mean? But we did have some seniors who are younger, our young adults. We would, you know, they would partner with them to make sure that they were able to keep up. But for the most part, many of our seniors already lived with younger people, so we didn't have that major thing. But I know I have a girlfriend whose church was predominantly older people, and I know for her, she did the Facebook Live thing, but she also did conference calls. So her people mainly came in on the conference calls.
I see. So accommodating them via conference call, making sure that they're inclusive.
Yeah.
Inclusive. That's major. And like Kiona said, our NPU-J is predominantly elderly community, and we just want to make sure that nobody's left behind.
Right.
As we're moving.
So like what you like tonight could have been a conference call where people call in and not just Zoom.
Right.
Well, we did mention a conference call. We did a conference call.
Yeah, it's actually both. There's three people. Yeah, there's three people dialed in on the phone for this call.
Good.
So.
See, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Good. Thank you, Benjamin.
Okay.
So, well, I guess it's 7:01, and if any further questions, please feel free to ask. I saw Ms. Dawkins have already shared her contact information.
I put my website up there, but let me put my email.
Please. Are you putting it to everyone?
Yeah, I'm putting it in the chat. Am I putting it in the chat?
I haven't seen yet.
I don't see it. I haven't seen it.
I think you need to say to everyone. I think you're sending that to me.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
I'm sorry. To everyone.
There we go.
Let me see. How am I doing it, Benjamin? Send chat. It won't let me do it. It's saying private.
Is there a little arrow next to private?
Yeah, a little drop down.
Oh, I see it. Everyone. I got it.
Okay.
So now we will have this information, contact information for both of you. We will be posting it up. This is just the beginning. I am sure that I will be reaching you guys or having Dr. Ellison reach you both as we move forward. It was amazing. The session was beautiful, very helpful information. And I want to form a team with you guys to be consistently become part of NPU-J as we grow. and as we bring all the constituents to the platform where we're wanting to reach. So thank you so much. Thank you for
Thank you.
attendees. Thank you so much for the speakers. Thanks for all the information. And I'll be definitely contacting you guys moving forward.
Thank you.
Okay, I put here, my email address, my website, Instagram, and Twitter.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay, there it is.
Thank
There
you.
it is. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now we got it. We got it. Well, thank you so much, everybody. You all stay safe. Have a wonderful evening, and thanks again for joining.
You too.
Okay, thank you.
Enjoy your vacation, Dr. Alvarado. Thank you so much.
Okay, going back to vacation. And even here with social distancing,
Yeah.
everybody is social distancing. I told, it's been interesting, very interesting. Like there's nothing, a lot of the restaurants and stuff are closed on the property. And so we're in our own villa, we're cooking in our own villas. And when you go out to the pool area, they're only allowing like you to be out there with your immediate family.
Nice.
So it's interesting, very interesting. Like I said, 911 changed the way we travel. COVID-19 is going to change the way we do things, even vacations.
Yes.
The new norm. That's
new
what it
normal.
is. You're practicing it already.
But yet we're still able to do it. You get me?
Exactly.
Right. There's a light. We must keep looking at that light.
Exactly.
Thank you so much. You all stay blessed. Enjoy your rest of the day and much more. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
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 Bye now.